I'm dancing on the grave.
We are live, girls, on Facebook and
How do we
YouTube. I'm gonna
turn
turn
it
this down a little bit here so we can do this. We're excited to be here tonight. We have so many. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you now. If you are not already subscribed to the newsletter, please do so because there's some exciting news coming out tomorrow. Not only in the newsletter that you're going to get to read and take a part in. So I hope that you will take time to do that. As we're preparing, we're back here again for week number 2, or the bulletproof bra, basically, week number 2. And we want to know when you're here. If you're out there, let us know that you're here. Say hello so we can see where you're listening from and what you're doing. And then again, next week we'll be giving away a bag.
Yes.
Tonight we get a draw for the winner for the ticket for the Women's Symposium that's coming up in May. But if you are interested in receiving a Salty Sister bag, make sure that you text girlfriend to 606-789-5311 or text girlfriend here on the air. Okay, it's still going. All right, so anybody listening? Mm-hmm. All right, let's turn this around so we can see. We have some people on here. Miss Cassie. Hello, ladies. We have Kim. Okay, we've got Kim, of course, right? She's always Yvonne, Andy Conley, Donna Fairchild. Welcome, Susie. So good to see you all the way in Columbus. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We're happy to have you guys. So make sure that you subscribe to the newsletter, and there are directions to do that on the Salty Sister Facebook page. And also make sure through your notifications, because make sure that you are clicking the follow button to the Salty Sister page. We're going to be putting a lot more stuff on there for you to be able to see and take part in.
I don't even think that I have my notifications on because I never get anything that tells me.
Yes, so make sure you click follow.
You have to fix that for me.
Fix that for her. I am the tech.
She is my tech support.
So, are you guys excited for tonight? Did anybody take anything fabulous away from last week and was able to use it this week? Hey, Sherry. We're getting ready to be live on the radio. So, hey, Leanne, so good to see you on here. Let's get ready. I'm so nervous. God nervous.
God nervous. That's it. See, I never get. Rises up from an empty.
This song just really gets me going when we're able to do all that. If you're all here, happy to be with us here tonight, give us a little heart on there. Next week, we're going to have a really big ask for you, something fun I'm going to ask each of you to do. But you have to wait till the end to find out. See if I can do all this.
Hallelujah. It was so good to see my sister Kim this morning at church.
Yeah, Kim, I heard you were there. Welcome back this week to the Salty Sister Radio Show. And before we get started, let's hear a word from our sponsors.
Shine our light throughout our region, whether it is a project for our community, providing supplies for ones in need, praying for a family in times of trouble, or just coming alongside others to let them know that someone cares. We're so thankful and blessed to be able to sponsor our Salty Sister and their show.
Thank you, Randy and Chanel. I'm going to say his name first tonight.
She's getting good at this now.
I am. I've got it down. Right? I even wrote it down so that I wouldn't forget it. So happy to be back here.
Yes.
It's been a week.
It's been a week, but it feels so much longer.
Yes,
so
it does.
Much longer.
It does. And I feel like that since we've been studying this, I've been given opportunity to use it, this armor.
Me too.
And so what I want to do before we get started, last week we were telling everyone to text girlfriend to 606-789-5311 for an opportunity to win a ticket to the Women's Business Symposium that's coming up on May 3rd, I think is the right
I'm
date.
excited.
So guess who the winner is? Drum roll, please. It is Diana Craft.
Yay!
So
That's my
Diana,
beautiful
I'll be
pastor.
reaching out to you on how that you can claim your ticket and be able to attend that day for the Women's Symposium. Just so you know, that's coming up and you can register for it. It is online. I will post it on our Salty Sister page. I get to be the keynote speaker talking about We Conquer by Continuing. So I would love to have as many of my Salty Sisters out there in the audience as I can.
I think that's going to be awesome.
So tonight we're going to be giving away a bag next week, a Salty Sister bag. If you're listening on the air, you can text 606-789-5311. Text girlfriend. That's the Toyota Man WSIP hotline. So make sure that you do that and text girlfriend and let us know who you are and where you're listening from. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can simply type in the comment section girlfriend. Are you ready to get this started?
I'm ready. Let's go, girl.
Because I know you got all fired up because last week we ran out of time and you didn't get to share the most fabulous part that you were so excited to share.
I tell you, I just going back through every piece of this armor. I mean, I've studied it. The armor of God, I feel like, has been preached on, taught on forever. But I don't think I have ever gone through the pieces like I have here recently. And this breastplate of righteousness, I don't know. I have just fell in love with it. There's just so much in there. So much in there. So I guess I want to start by just saying that the breastplate of righteousness, it says, how can righteousness be a weapon? Because people are like, well, how can that actually be a weapon? So I said 2 Corinthians 6:7, Paul refers to righteousness as armor. In Isaiah 59:17 says, he put on righteousness as a breastplate. The breastplate to us is many things. It's boldness. Mm-hmm. It's got shine. It is our confidence. Just like, my kids always loved Spider-Man and they loved Batman. And, Batman was just Clark in the office. But or Superman.
Yes.
Superman, he was just Clark in the office. But once he put on that suit, he became Superman. He put on confidence. He put on boldness. He put on all these things. And just like Spider-Man, he was just, a normal person. And that's how we are until we put on Christ, till we put on that righteousness. And
I love it.
I do. And I said the breastplate is the shiniest, most beautiful piece of weaponry that we use or that the soldier wore. And the more they wore them, the more beautiful and shiny they became. I loved that part. It said the breastplate was composed of 2 different metals, one for the front, one for the back. And each piece had a smaller piece of metal in between, like scales of a fish. I had a prom dress one time, Rochelle. My favorite dress out of every dress I ever wore, it was solid gold. No one really liked it when I picked it out, but I always picked out the shiniest, brightest, and boldest things. But each piece on this dress was like a fish scale. And when I walked and moved, the shinier it was. And I began to think about that when I was studying this breastplate, about that dress and how shiny it was. That's how the breastplate looked to them, the more they wore it and the more they used it. And I said the breastplate was the heaviest weaponry the soldier wore. When we try to go to battle in our own strength, it's heavy. It's heavy. Everything we try to do becomes heavy and it weighs us down because we're doing it in our own strength.
Trying to do it
in our own strength. But when we put on him, we can do all things. Right. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. The more they wore the breastplate, something happened. The metal would rub together, like I just told you, and it would make an even shinier with a new luster to it. And I said, to imagine a piece of metal, looking at a piece of metal, and have you ever looked at it right when the sun is just hitting it full force? It's blinding. This breastplate served both a defensive and an offensive weapon. And that's what it did. Defensively, it protected that soldier. It protected his heart. It protected all of that. But offensively, that was what amazed me. When they stood together offensively with those shields and that breastplate and everything on, an amazing thing happened. It looked like a rainbow. I read that in one of the books that we'd been studying on this breastplate of righteousness, and how every color come out, and that was a blinding effect to the enemy. It deflected that light and blinded the enemy. And we know we can't hit a target we can't see.
That's
That
right.
is awesome.
And as much as I've studied, as you have too, there's been so many things unfolding about the breastplate.
Yes.
And that too was something for me. And I also thought, the more that iron sharpens iron, right?
Yes.
So the
Yes.
more though that you are wearing that breastplate of righteousness, the more the soldier did, that the one who has worn it the most is going to stand out the most, because it's going to be the most blinding.
It is.
I think about how you brought that. So it blinded by the light. Do you remember that song in
Yes.
the 80s? Blinded by. So, but I've never thought about the breastplate of righteousness as an offensive weapon.
I know.
Because you think, what can you do with it? It's just on your body.
Yes,
What
yeah.
could you really do with that? But knowing what that is and how powerful it is,
Mhm.
that is just incredible.
It is. And then I said too, in 2 Kings, I had looked this up. 2 Kings 6:18. I love this. Elisha prayed to the Lord, strike this army with blindness. And he did. God did that very thing. Isaiah 54:17. No weapon formed against us shall prosper. We have to believe this, and we have to trust. We have to trust. The weapons are going to come. They're going to come from every single side and everything, but they will not harm us.
Yes.
They're going to come.
Yeah, God did
Get
say
ready
it wouldn't
for
be
'em.
formed. He said it would be formed.
It
Whatever is
will
formed
form.
against
That's
us.
right.
Yes. See, that's where I feel like sometimes as Christians we get really beat down, because we forget about what's inside of us.
Yeah.
That Kratos power, the Holy Spirit, the
Yes.
resurrecting power that resides in us, and being able to, in honor, put on that breastplate
Yeah.
of righteousness.
And the rainbow, the part about the rainbow, the colors of the rainbow, rainbow represents the promise. It
Yes.
represents the promises of God. When we are walking in the promises of God, that's when we are most beautiful to him. When we are got our shoulders squared up, we are bold, our heads are lifted, just like the soldier would be
Yeah.
lifted. That's when we are most beautiful to him, when we're walking in his promises. We are not meant to walk around like this, defeated. We have the victory. We already have it.
Yes, we do.
We have got to step into that.
And station ourselves.
And
Be
station
ready.
ourselves. That's right.
With the rainbow, you think about it. How many people just about wreck sometimes taking a picture of a rainbow on the way to work?
Yes.
Why we're still to this day so fascinated
About the rainbow.
And so because we all are enamored by its beauty.
Yes.
We all do things to take a picture or post on Facebook.
Mhm.
All the pictures of the rainbow, going to work, I saw this, and it still means something to us. So
Mhm.
imagine as a soldier being that I don't want to say the attention, but the light that would be drawn to that, having other Christians beside of us.
Yes.
What if you're going to battle and you've been really faithfully putting on that righteousness, and I'm with you, and I have not so, but being able to walk with you or behind you as what you're walking in front of me, to be able to blind that enemy, that strengthens me to see how bright your light is shining.
Yes.
And we're living in a dark world, and we
We
definitely
are.
need all the bright lights that we can.
And he says we're called to be light and salt in this earth.
That's right.
And when we're walking around defeated, we're walking around like that, we're not being salt and light. That's not what we're doing.
No, and going back to what is righteousness, we talked about this. So I wrote down 3 quotes after studying this week I thought was really good. Righteousness is this. If you got a pen, take notes. It's conforming our will to God's will.
Mhm.
Literally saying, okay, God, it's not my will anymore. I want to conform my life and my will to the will you have for me.
Yes.
The other thing is submitting to the lordship of Christ, really bowing our knee, giving him the reins of our lives and saying, God, you are Lord of my life. I'm going to let you lead.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's hard because flesh gets in the way and we want it our way, not his way. And then I love this last one because I've thought about this so much. Resigning to everything that's not God's will. What is in our life right now that we need to resign from?
Yeah.
What is taking up too much time, too much space? What are we not doing? What do we, as Christian soldiers, need to resign from
Yes.
and let loose? And I know we've had this conversation
Need
so
to
many
release
times.
and let him. Mhm.
We're busy.
Yeah.
And the enemy can even use good busy
Mhm.
to cause us to stumble.
To draw us away from our first love.
Yes, so I wrote this too. When we get out of alignment with God and that still small voice starts to convict us, there's a fine line between conviction and condemnation. And we've got to be careful because it says the enemy, he's standing by he's ready to hand out conviction fueled with accusations. So we're standing at this moment. We've gotten out of the will of God, and the Holy Spirit, that still, small, sweet voice. You feel your heart beat a little bit. Cassie, you shouldn't have done that. Rochelle, you should have done that. You feel that in your spirit,
Yes.
and you know it's
He will
drawing you
check you.
back to
Yeah.
alignment, right?
Mhm,
To get
that's
you
right.
getting your tires aligned again. It's staying in alignment, and the enemy is right there at the handoff, waiting to see if you are going to, for a moment, pause and let condemnation take over instead of conviction. And it's fueled with accusations because it says in Revelation that he's the accuser.
Yeah, he's the
accuser of the
accuser.
brethren. Yeah.
But we cannot be so prideful, and we cannot be so caught up in ourselves that we can't just say, I messed up. I messed up.
Own it.
Own it.
Yeah.
Own
So
it.
that brings me to my next thing. So,
just like Peter. I mean, my goodness. I mean, he fumbled the ball big time. Big
of course.
time. But you know what? God was faithful. God was faithful and just to forgive him. And he was the first one that he told them to go back. He was like, and tell Peter also.
Yes, he did.
All we got to say is, God, forgive us. Forgive us. I messed up. I dropped the ball. I fumbled it. But forgive us. And he will do that very thing. I mean, we're not going to be perfect.
No.
But we can be perfect in him if we choose to put him on. His boldness, his love, his mercy, his forgiveness, his righteousness.
Yes, and his love for other people.
Yes.
So talking about deception and talking into that, one of the things I read in this book that was great, it's talked about the first deception took place in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, we have to own it. So I
We
have
do.
found in working in leadership roles that it's best to say, hey, I messed up. Now, what can we do to fix this?
Yeah.
I feel like it's just so much easier to own up to what error I have made and how
Yes.
can we fix it. But it says here's how humanity reacted. Adam and Eve, they hid, they denied,
Mm-hmm.
and they started blame shifting.
Yes.
And I think about, poor Adam says, this woman you gave me did this. And then everything just started to, we've got to just own up to it.
Yeah.
And I wonder about that. God, we messed up.
Yep.
Here's what we did. The enemy deceived us. God took care of the serpent.
Yeah.
Took his legs and all those things. He's going to be eating our dust the rest of his life.
That's exactly right.
Yes. And that's, that was a great revelation too. But thinking about when we are doing something wrong, stop trying to deny it or not own it or to hide it or to not shift it or to whatever. But just take ownership and hit your knees.
Yes.
And repent. Ask God, really, God, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me this. And forgiveness is also about turning about face the opposite direction and going resigning from whatever it was.
That's it.
And I think the easiest thing that we all get away with is our tongue.
Oh, absolutely.
When you think you can worry about
it's unruly,
or somebody will say something or do something that will agitate you, and you just want to let your tongue run wild for a minute, right? And I know that cuts deep to the Lord's heart, and that's something I just want to. People agitate you, frustrate you. You want to say things that you shouldn't really say.
Exactly.
So if you got to talk about somebody, talk about them to God.
Talk about them to God. That's it. Take them to the Lord. Just take it to Him.
Let's see. There's something else I want to share. Of talking about that armor, being willing to put it on every single day. It says that if we are not wearing that breastplate of righteousness, we are actually putting ourselves in full frontal attack, vulnerable to the enemy.
Yes.
Right there. And you were telling me this week how you were taking Cooper to the ball field and you forgot his chest plate. You said, well, you can't play without that because it protects your heart, it protects your chest.
Well, I noticed the other night when he was pitching, I was like, oh, Cooper doesn't have his, what do they call that thing?
I don't know.
Think of it. Chad, type in here what they call that thing. Chest guard. That's it.
The chest guard.
The chest guard.
Okay.
And I thought, oh my gosh, if that ball comes back and hits him, they wear those because they say the ball can hit them in the heart and it will just kill them. It'll stop their heart. And I was telling Cooper, I was like, Coop, we've got to get that chest guard. We've got to get you one bought because yours is too small. It doesn't fit you right or properly or correctly.
Yes.
He went, oh, Mom, I don't need that. And I said, oh, you do need that.
Yes.
You do need that. You should never take the mound without it. And I began to think about, everything we've been talking about. So I started going through all the pieces of the armor with Cooper and just explaining to him how important it is to guard our hearts, to guard the hearts. Don't let anything get in there that is not of the Lord. Don't let unforgiveness, bitterness, those type of things get in there.
Yes.
We got to guard our hearts.
We do. And I love what you said. Every time you have to have it on when you get on the mound. When you're getting ready, you got to be on the mound ready.
That's it.
In the suit of armor. And then I thought about too how that the enemy's accusations of guilt and shame, He really wants to pierce our heart with it. But if you have that breastplate on, like that chest guard,
Yeah.
it's not going to get through.
That's right.
And as we've talked multiple times about this, obedience is really tied to everything.
Mhm.
And so asking yourself, what condition is your heart in? And this question really challenged me this week. Is there an area in your life that God has spoken to you about that, and you're not listening? Is God calling you to do something? Is God calling you away from something? Is God wanting to add something to or take something away? And we know it and we feel it, but we're not doing it.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to make sure that we keep our heart in right living the right way, and following and being obedient,
Yes.
because he prefers obedience over
Oh,
sacrifice.
he does. He does. And, like I said before, delayed obedience with God is immediate disobedience. I mean, when he tells you to do it, we got to do it. We've got to learn not to think through it, and try to figure it all out. We've got to act. When he tells us to do something, we got to do it. Quit trying to figure it out. Quit trying to trust in ourselves.
Exactly.
We've got to trust in him.
I will tell you from experience, your heart will beat out of your chest. Your belly will feel like it's in knots. Maybe you feel like someone's kicked you in the gut. It's the most scariest thing
It
sometimes to do what God has called you to do.
Yeah.
It's fearful sometimes. But what I have found, I'm sure you have found this too, and I will tell any of you out there, if God is calling you to do something or leading you to do something or to walk away from something or walk to something, it is that first step.
Yeah.
Take the first step.
Yes.
Then there's this grace that he pours. It's like it just keeps paving the way for you.
Power.
Every
that.
single step.
Yes.
Now, back here behind you, you have fear
Mm-hmm.
begging you to stay. In front of you have faith cheering you on.
Yes.
And what I have found is the more persistent I am, as my dad says, we conquer by continuing, going through. When you get past that point, when you get through, when that breakthrough and that shift happens and you're coming through, you cannot hear fear anymore. All you
No.
hear is faith applauding.
Yes, every single step, it just begins to lessen and lessen and lessen. I've got a family member right now that has been praying, and we're believing, and we know it's coming. He's applied for another job and he's working out of town and all that. And I just messaged his wife the other day. It's my cousin. And I said, tell him to go ahead, put the resignation letter in, and go
Resign.
ahead and start packing the bags. It's done. That's faith. It's easy when we've got the plan and we know exactly how it's going to go. But when you've got to step out not knowing and fully relying on God,
Yes.
that's faith. And that is when he is most pleased with us.
This takes me back many, many years ago. I was in a position working, and the Lord, for 3 days, I can still see myself in this office with me and him, and arguing with him that he was asking me to resign. It was resign your job. And I'm like, okay, who asked a person to do that? You're going to cut my income in half. All these things. For 3 days, I argued with him.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I prayed. I said, this is just not logical.
Right.
And and he just spoke to
That's
my
how
spirit.
you know it's him.
Yeah, he spoke to my spirit and he says it wasn't logical for Noah to build the ark.
No.
And I was like, you know what? Fine. I'm going to do this. But the one thing that the Lord taught me, even as times were tough then, raising small children and depleting my income in half, I feel like my whole life I had really trusted God with everything except my checkbook.
Yeah.
Well, I had
That's
to
the
give him.
hard
I had to give him the checkbook, right? But I cannot share with you the many things. It was humbling for me, first of all, that people came by and the most ridiculous things happened that the Lord provided through other hands, not my
Yes.
own, to show me that He was the source. He was the provider, and I had to rely on that completely. And it was scary, but I wouldn't change it for anything now.
Oh, what a lesson. What he taught you.
Oh, it was so
The
scary,
trust.
though. It was
The
so scary. I'm like,
trust.
are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's insane. And sometimes I think those are the times when we want to second guess ourselves.
Yeah.
But don't you ever second guess. When you feel your chest beating out of you, when you feel the Lord preparing you or doing something, it's like testifying.
Oh.
I mean, one time in church, you could see my shirt moving. I mean, Chris was like, your heart is beating out of your chest. I'm like, I know I've got to testify because I'm going to have a heart attack right here. But my heart bursts with so much.
Yeah.
And sometimes, the testimony is for other people needing that encouragement.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here to do, to encourage you ladies, to encourage you sisters, to be salty, stay salty, stand your ground, station yourself, guard your heart,
Yes.
put on the armor.
Step out in that obedience. I was reading and studying this week how the priests, when they were bringing back the Ark of the Covenant,
Oh, yes.
and as the Jordan never parted until they took the first step into the water. There they looked at that body of water. But once their foot went
That's right.
in,
I love
it
that.
just
Yes, I
parted.
love that.
It just parted. Do whatever he is calling you to do. Step out. Step out. He will take care of it. He'll work it all out. He'll part every Red Sea there is for you.
And I will say this, as fearful as it is, sometimes being in that, you know how some people like that adrenaline rush. Like,
Yes.
I know that my husband, he wanted to ride motorcycles way too fast or drive cars. That adrenaline rush. There is something about this spiritual adrenaline rush when you're stepping out and scary. I mean, just step. There's something about it. It almost
Yes.
becomes a little bit addicting.
It
Like
does.
I love being in the center of that
Yes.
wheel sometimes,
Mhm.
and it's so scary getting there.
Yeah.
And
But when you get there, you never want to leave
oh no,
because you feel so free. I mean, there is such a release and I mean, freedom.
yes,
And that's where the liberty is. I
Yes.
mean, that's where the liberty is when you are free. And he says, if I've set you free, you are free.
free indeed. And I just want, I guess, the sisters that's listening tonight to be encouraged. I don't know what, I know that there's so many people that message each of us different times.
Yes.
Sitting here talking to Lee and Cassie before the show about there's so many people in need, so many people hurting, so many people going for things that are uncontrollable. But the one thing that we do know is that God is in ultimate control, that He is still on the right hand of the Father, and He is there. And if we keep our eyes on Him, as David said in Psalm, and we will not be shaken.
No, we won't.
So just gird our loins up with truth. First of all, get the truth,
Get the truth.
and the righteous living, to put on that breastplate. And I say this every week. You're not going to know it unless you read the Word of
That's
God.
right.
To get in the Word,
That's
to
right.
study that too.
Let him speak a word to your spirit. Let him just speak. And I tell you, one word changes everything.
It does.
Everything.
Reading in the most unique places in the Scripture too, as I was sharing with you all this Friday evening. There was right in First Kings, another situation about the armor again. Just stuck. I'd never noticed that there again about the armor, but how the Lord, when you are willing to open your eyes and open your heart and to sit down and to receive exactly what
And
He
allow
has for you
him
that
to
day.
speak.
Exactly. I don't care. It's one chapter a day,
That's it.
and just reread that one chapter.
And
Just,
ask him to reveal
yes.
it to you. Ask him to give you discernment and wisdom on the scriptures. Ask him to do that. He will do it.
Yes.
He'll do it.
And I know Leah, I talked to her, I watched the War Room. Well, that got me all fired up. And then she watched it and she's all fired up. But of course, we were talking about I found an actual closet, right, that nobody can get into.
Yeah.
So building a doghouse maybe on the outside might be worth it. But just getting into that space and taking time to pray. And if you have a hard time staying on task, write your prayers down. Get you a prayer journal and just start writing them. That will keep you, if you have a mind like mine, sometimes going from place to place, that will help keep
I have the
you.
same mind.
Yeah, I know you do.
I have the same mind.
I know you do. But I guess I'm like you. I've been so encouraged about this study just because it has.
I just want to see women. I just want to see women walking in the power and authority that he has given us. That's what I want. I want them. I want to walk up and say, get up, pick your head up. He tells us he's the lifter of our heads.
Yes.
I want to say, get up. You are not created to walk around being over.
That's right.
You're not. You're
That's
not.
right.
And I that's what I want. I just want to encourage people. People are like, oh, you've just got so much joy, so much faith. It's in him. It's in him. He's who makes me smile.
Yes.
He's who gives me life. He's who gives me joy and happiness. That's my strength. Him.
And we have to start depending on that and not people, not
Yes.
places, not situations, and not things.
That's right. People
If
are going to
you-
let you down.
Yes, if you want that joy on, and how can you be laughing or smiling at a time such as this? That's because we know the source, we know the provider, we know the outcome, we know that what we talked about in Genesis 50:20, what these people meant for evil, God will bring to good. God will use it for his good. Poor Joseph. I mean, look what the heart of that, thinking about that, how God can turn anything around and make anything
He can
happen.
take us from the pit to the palace just like that.
Yes.
That's what we have to understand. It may look bad. It may look bleak and no hope. But God, by the end of the day before the sun sets, everything can change. He's that kind of God.
And we have to keep, but here's the thing, he is, but we have to pick our head up, like you said,
have to.
and be, as
Encourage
David
ourselves.
said, encourage ourselves.
We
And he
have
also
to.
says, I wait with anticipation. I wait with bated breath
That's right.
to see what God is going to do.
That's right.
And to know that he's going to do it, his will, his time, his way, the confidence that we should carry in that.
I don't understand. Don't know how you're going to do it. Don't even care. But I know you're going to do it, God.
That's right.
You are going to do it. I
That's
know
right.
you will.
So as we've been studying this, I hope that you ladies are encouraged, you sisters are encouraged tonight to even be more salty than you already are, to be able to gird your loins with the truth, to understand what God has meant for you. Thinking about this breastplate of righteousness, asking yourself, did I do an inventory? Is there anything I need to resign from with God? Is there anything I need to give him the reins of? Is he completely the lordship in my life? Am I really allowing him to be in full control of that?
Yes.
And then asking yourself too, is God leading me to something or leading me away from something? If you feel that still small voice of conviction, most importantly, do not let it get confused with condemnation.
Right.
There is no condemnation in Christ. The Holy Spirit will convict you, woo you, and draw you back to him to get into alignment again. But when the accuser comes and he actually wants to give you shame and try to pierce you with guilt, we got to get rid of that. And that's what that, just holding that armor out. You can't see me on the radio, but like just holding that armor out and saying, no, you cannot pierce this because I have the breastplate of righteousness.
I have
on.
Christ on. I am created in his image.
I love
Everything he has, I have. And he says, and greater are you going to do?
That's
We've
right.
got to
I
know
love
that. Greater are we going to do? One can chase 1,000, but two can put 10,000 to flight.
That's
Girls,
right.
we got the power. We've got the power. We just have to step into it and claim it.
Step on the mound, right?
That's
Get
it.
that chest
Step
dirt
on the mound and step on there with boldness, confident. Don't walk up and say, oh, I'm bold, I'm strong. No, we have Christ on. I mean, square those shoulders up and get ready.
You take the step, and he'll lay out the grace for you. He'll pave the rest with you with grace. Every single step will take courage. Yeah. Just like the Israelites going through the Red Sea, as you said, when they were bringing back the Ark of the Covenant, how the river didn't dissipate till they stepped there. We've got to be faith has got to be active. Wonder Twin powers, right? Activate. We got to activate that faith, right? So we appreciate you. Time is already up. Can you believe that? Another week
it goes fast.
So much studying for so little time, right?
Yes.
And so we want to tell you how much we appreciate you listening to the show. We hope you are encouraged. We hope you are ready to put on that armor. Make sure you tighten your belt and make sure that you put that breastplate on. And if you've not already subscribed to the newsletter, please do. Yes. We have some news that's only going to be shared right now in the newsletter. It'll be coming out Monday night. So you can get on our Salty Sister Facebook page. Make sure you click follow so you can see all the updates, and then click on there to see how you can text to subscribe. Thank you, ladies. Stay salty until next week.
Have a great week.